Going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Smooth Podcast, simply motivating others onward through hope. Here to the left of me, I have two extraordinary women who have been through some things, made it out on the other side, and now they're promoting health, wellness, and mental stability for all women. Truly honored to have them here. If they want to introduce themselves by their names first.
Hi, I'm Alexis Kutenplon Reyes.
Hi, I'm Carlene Fonseca.
Nice. And for the viewers that don't know who you guys are, what do you guys currently do?
I'm the director of after-school programming at Segway Institute for Learning, which is a charter school in Central Falls.
And that's a loaded question, but I am the founder of the Greatest You Consulting. I'm also the statewide director for the Rhode Island After School Network, and I have a bunch of community roles.
Nice. And I met both of you guys kind of on different planes, but I figured to have both of you guys here because I do feel like your guys' vision and missions kind of intertwine. So I thought two voices would be more powerful than one, which is why I brought both of you guys here. So I'm happy to have you guys here. Let's start off with Alexis. Where were you born and raised?
That's a loaded question. I was born in Newport, and I was in the foster care system. I'm adopted, and so I was raised in Rhode Island, and then in Providence, I think. I'm not sure. And then my mom, who adopted me, she lived in Providence, and so I grew up in Providence, and then I moved to Barrington for high school. To go for a better education, but I grew up in Providence. I want to say after I was adopted. In foster care, I'm not sure where I was.
Got you.
And I was born and raised in Central Falls by way of Cape Verde. My parents came to this country in the 80s.
Okay, very cool. And if you could shine light about your upbringing, how were you guys in school? How was family life? What were you guys interested in, and what were the college aspirations?
So I hated school, which is funny because now I work in the education system. I work at a charter school. I hated school. I was not a good student. I also felt very uncomfortable in school because I was adopted, because I was mixed, and I had two moms, and I had two brothers who were also adopted and didn't look like me, since they're from Ethiopia, and an older brother who didn't live with us. And so I didn't like school because I felt like I was constantly trying to fit in.
And you said you went to school in Barrington?
For high school.
Okay. How was that? I used to work in Barrington, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't get like racist vibes at all. I got like cool, like surfer dad, like crypto online work from home vibes. I don't know if your like experience was different, but that's the vibe that I was getting.
I definitely got different vibes than that. I would have to say if you're going to go to Barrington High School or a high school in a town, you have to have grown up there. I felt very out of place, and especially I was a minority. And so these kids were also driving up in their beautiful Beamers and nice cars. And my mom was like, girl, walk. Like, take the bus. Like, no, it's not happening. And my parents had good jobs. They still do have really good jobs. One's a midwife and one's a doctor. And so I don't want to say they didn't make amazing money. They make good money. But my parents never handed anything to me. And everything I had, I really had to work for. And so that included anything in Barrington. So when I tried out for the basketball team and everybody was getting these awesome Nike sneakers, my mom was like, how are you going to pay for them? Like, it had to come from my money. And so, of course, she supported me and helped me find a way to pay for things that I wanted. But I just felt like it was a very different experience than most of the kids at Barrington, where you wanted something, mommy or daddy were going to give it to you, you know?
Sure. And how about yourself?
So how did I grow up? So I'll give like two sides of it because I did well in school. Like growing up, I did well. I went to 4 different elementary schools, but I lived in the same city my whole life. It's just education in CF. But I grew up reading. I since kindergarten. I would just read books on top of books. I think it was an escape for me. But I did well in school. I graduated #2 in my class at CF High. I played 5 sports. I scored 1,000 points in basketball. And since I was 8 years old, I said I was going to go to Georgetown University. And I did. Whatever I put my mind to, I did it. On the flip side of that, I think I channeled a lot of that energy and passion because I was trying to disassociate and run from my body. I was sexually abused when I was probably like in 5th, 6th grade. And that had like a huge effect on how I viewed the world, my safety, my body, everything. So I think I was trying to cope, and that was playing basketball and reading and just getting through my academics. And like I found value and worth in that.
That's amazing that you were able to kind of like go through that, but still make some positive from it, right? Because even though you were trying to cope, at least you were trying to cope with like positive influences at that time. And then lo and behold, you made it to Georgetown. What were you majoring in there?
I majored in government. I originally got accepted to the business school, but you couldn't double major between schools, so I chose government.
Okay.
And then I went to George Washington for my master's.
Okay. Wow. Good for you. Good for you. And now as we speed up a little bit, what can both of you guys say when it comes to traumatic experiences and how they've molded you into the individuals that you guys are today?
I'll go. I think it took a while for me to process things that I've been through, from traumatic experiences in colleges to having family with mental health issues, experiencing death. I think it took a while for me to get out of my depressed, antisocial. I think I'm still there at times. But I think what motivates me and gets me and pushes me to where I am right now is the fact that I love what I do. And I think that's really, really important to find something that you're really passionate about and something that you love to do, because that will motivate you each day and that will get you up each day and that will push you and keep you going each day. And I think that's important.
Some people that, I mean, you know, I'm not your best friend, but I know you. We have a good relationship. Would be surprised to hear that, you know, to this day that you still work on fighting depression and things of that nature, because whenever I see you, you're so bubbly. Like, I don't think there's ever been a time that I've seen you and you were down, besides one, but, you know, I think you're bubbly in all aspects. So is that who you are, or is that kind of a cover up to deal with the trauma?
I think that's who I am. I think I'm a very bubbly person, but I think that I've grown older. I've realized that it sometimes is a cover-up for who I am, for what I'm going through. I mean, when I'm at work, I work with kids. I can't be sad. I can't be mad. I can't be upset in terms of like putting what I've gone through that day onto them. That's not fair. And so I tend to be bubbly and happy. I can't show up to a meeting with the state upset, sad and whatnot. I need to be present. I need to be there. And so I think I deal with things on my own. I've learned to deal with things on my own because everyone is going through stuff. It's hard for me to open up to my best friend, and that's been my girl since I was 5. I think it's just, I tend to go through things on my own, unfortunately. I have to learn to lean on to people, but I do have a bubbly personality and a face to just, you know, show everyone that I'm fine. But that's an important reminder to check on your friends, to check on the people that you care about the most, to check on those happy people. Some of my closest friends don't even know what I've gone through in the past year, and I think that's a testament for how happy I am, but it's also like, hey, check in on people, you know?
There's a duality in there, right? Like, wow, great job at holding it together, but man, like, why don't you tell people type of thing? Yeah, that's interesting. And yourself?
And I'm like a complete open book now. But in terms of traumatic experiences, if we go back to childhood, right, and talking about neglect, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, death in the family, mental health in the household, right? Like I come from a Cape Verdean background, and everything's hush hush. We don't talk about, you know, the dirt, the secrets in the family. We don't let that out. And so for a while, I was a good girl, right? I just kept my mouth shut. I didn't tell anybody about what I was experiencing. It wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, like, holy crap, like, something's wrong here, right? And I have a deep mother wound that I'm working through now as a mother. And just that narcissism. I remember talking to my therapist, and she's like, well, you don't have, like, daddy issues. You got mommy issues, because that was never enough for my mom. So I'm still, like, struggling through that. And then as an adult, I went through, like, several abusive relationships, and it, like, culminated with my daughter's father. We were in an abusive relationship, verbally and physically. And I realized I didn't have coping skills. Like, where do you learn coping skills? We don't learn that at school, right? So I turned to drugs and alcohol to cope, because that was the only way that I knew how, right? And I saw myself getting into, like, a deep cycle there. And I'll continue after, but that was a lot of the trauma that was built up from my childhood that was finally showing up as an adult, like my inner child showing up.
And now, being faces of the community that you guys work in, do you guys see, especially younger women, potentially going through some of the things that you guys went through? And what do you guys do to try to outreach those young women?
Yeah, I see it a lot. And I mean, we both work in Central Falls. I'm not from Central Falls, but I love the city, and I worked there since I was like 20 years old. I'm 28. I definitely see it, whether it's kids who are now in foster homes, kids who are with someone that they're not, like, living with, not even foster care, but family members that have to take care of them. And I relate to them in terms of that. And I just see these kids who grew up in, like Carlene was saying, Spanish and Cape Verdean culture, who are told that they can't talk about their feelings, and that they should be strong, and they need to be these strong women. And they come to school and they're like, Miss, like, I had a morning. And I'm like, it's okay. It's okay to have a morning. It's okay to have gone through it. Know that you can find someone here in the space, and I'm okay with my student if I'm not my student's person, but as long as they find an adult in the school that is their person that they can turn to and talk to about whatever is going on at home, that's what matters most to me. And that's what I want to see, especially in those women, but especially in the men too, the boys. Like, I want to see the boys open up in Cape Verdean households and Spanish households, and know that their voice also matters. Like, their mental health also matters. It's important.
Yeah. And for me, I think it's sharing my story and being authentic, because I feel like the more that I share about abuse, about unhealthy relationships, about coping strategies, it gives that little girl hope, and for her to feel like she wasn't alone. When I was going through what I was going through, I felt so alone. And I felt like only I was experiencing that. And it happens more often, like, than we think. So, like, I go back to Calca, my middle school, and I spoke to, like, my 6th grade teacher's class, right? And I'm like, can I talk about, like, substances and mental health? She's like, why not? Like, they, you know, they have families. So, like, I go in and talk to them, but that's something that I want to do more of, right? I want to run wellness workshops in our high schools. I want to talk to girls. I want to create support circles, not only for the young girls, but for the families, because the young people, they're actually very vocal about what they want, how they experience it, their mental health. It's their families that's the problem, right? And so having families, like, more educated and giving them more support so that they can deal with their own crap. So it's like, it's a generational thing. It's definitely a generational thing. Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of clients that come to me saying that they grew up in households that, you know, expressing their feelings, it wasn't looked, it was pretty much frowned upon. What I also explain is that maybe that's kind of how it was supposed to be, though, because if we put ourselves in our parents' shoes, like, that might have been how they survived, right? Like maybe this is a new luxury for us. Like, we never really look at it from that perspective, but, like, I think, yes, you're supposed to express your feelings. Yes, you know, it's not a bad thing if you cry, but I also realize that this is actually a newfound luxury that we have. So it's like that delicate balance between like, okay, what they were doing wasn't right, but maybe it was right for their time. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think therapy is the new thing right now. And it's like cool to talk about your feelings now. But when I was growing up, it wasn't at all. Like I wouldn't talk about what it felt like to be adopted. I wouldn't talk about the feelings I have, like when people leave me. Like that's hard for me. And from talking about it with my therapist, like I have an issue when people that I love and care about walk away from me because my parents who created me left me and walked away from me. And so I think that's a huge thing. But I think that it took me until I was in past like a year ago, 2 years ago, for me to sit there and have a conversation with my therapist, because I was like, ooh, to tell my friends that I have a therapist, like that's not cool. Like that's weird. Like something's wrong with me to be like, oh, I have a therapist. Like guys, I gotta go. I have therapy right now. Like that wasn't it. Now it's like, oh my gosh, I need a mental health day. Oh my gosh, I have a therapist. Like I love my therapist. I've gone through multiple therapists to find the right therapist. But before, when I was in college or even high school, to be like, oh, you have a therapist? It's like, oh my gosh, she's crazy. Like there's something wrong with her. So I think it's like the new thing. And so it wasn't the thing for when our parents were there. For sure. Yeah.
And what I will add, I think, right, what you were saying is a little bit about like the systemic and intergenerational trauma, right? That our parents and generations before had to go through. Like it was a survival instinct. They had to negate their kids because you didn't want somebody to come take your kids away, right? So you would deem them unworthy or ugly or whatever the case is, right? But I feel like at some point there needs to be some sort of accountability, because I can also say, okay, that's how I was raised, but I choose not to raise my daughter that same way, right? I could continue the cycle, right, but I'm choosing to it ends with me. Right. So I feel like there also needs to be accountability, because I will still have certain conversations with my mom and tell her how I felt, and she'll deny it, or she'll tell me like, no, my feelings are not valid. So there needs to be some sort of accountability. I don't care what generation you're in. Like, we're not in survival mode anymore. So, Yeah.
No, for sure. If you guys don't mind sharing, and I'm not just asking to ask this, I think that there'll be viewers out there that can learn a lot and hopefully mold themselves to help themselves through what you guys are about to kind of explain. But at, let's say, your lowest point, what were some of the internal feelings that you guys were having?
Panic attacks. And I would not sleep. I could not. I think actually up to like a few weeks ago was taking melatonin every single night. I had constant panic attacks to a point where I have a balcony. I had to sit on my balcony. Would not sleep. I would be up at hours of the night. And unless I took melatonin, unless I had NyQuil. And so it was just really bad, really, really bad anxiety, really bad panic attacks, and just tons and tons of sleepless nights. Like I had to have that melatonin next to my bed. If I was going on a trip, I had to bring the melatonin. Like I could not at all. Like otherwise I was up until like 5, 6 a.m. and I can't do that with work the next day. Right. And then until it backfired on me, and then a few weeks ago, like I was waking up at like 2 a.m. with panic attacks in the night. And I think that happened because I had an attempted break-in at my house. And so, which thankfully was just a random person, but I think like then I just couldn't sleep at my house. And even with the melatonin, I still couldn't sleep. I was still hearing sounds. And so I think, and then I just stopped. I was just like, all right, this is now night 2 of panic attacks, and I can't do this until 4 a.m. the next day. And so then I was just like, let me just try tomorrow. Like nothing, because I'm so tired anyways. Let me just try. And I slept, and I haven't done that since. But yeah, really bad anxiety, like heart beating, shaking, fingers, like had to play with an elastic. I bite my nails. I twirl my hair for sensory stuff. And just not sleeping. And my friends who know me really well, they'll know. And even crowds, like I couldn't do crowds. Like crowds of people, even to this day, I'm like you said, I'm really bubbly in a great like work environment, an environment that I know, but you put me in a place with a bunch of strangers and you tell me, Lexi, go say hi to them and go walk over to them, that freaks me out. I can't do that at all. At all. Like I will, like, I can't. I can do it in a work setting, but like in a friendship setting, I can't do it. It freaks me out way too much. I'll wave and say hi, but I can't get up and like go and do it. It just, I don't know. There's something that just makes me really, really anxious. So, yeah.
And similar, I was very hyper vigilant about everything. Like I was always like on edge, nervous. I felt a lot of fear, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, especially like as a new mother. Right, there's a lot that we don't talk a lot about, like struggles of new mothers, especially like single moms. And I just, who knows how to raise a kid? Like, you know, right. Like I remember at the hospital, they like just gave me this kid, and I'm like, what do you do with this? You know, like I thought I was wild. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? And so, like as a new mom, I just felt so much like guilt and shame because I started like using drugs and alcohol after I had my daughter, like, and I was going through that abusive relationship, and like I just wasn't present for her, so I had a lot of like mom guilt and shame. I was very anxious. I avoided, like I would, if I had a meeting, I would be like, yo, I can't make it. Like I would make up some excuse. It was just very out of character of me. Like I came out of who I was, like at my core in that time. But I got on medication. I started seeing a therapist. I went to Butler. I had to do their inpatient program. And what I would say to like people listening is get checked out. Like I had anxiety, depression, PTSD, and 95 or 98% of sexual assault victims have PTSD. So it's like I clearly had it, right? Like you had it, but like nobody tells you, nobody talks about it. And then I have adult ADHD. So I would just say like get checked out and ask for help. Like that was my first time I ever like asked for help. And I just like started dialing numbers till I figured it out.
And kind of putting the reverse card down, what's a moment that you guys both had that you were like, you know what, I went through some really hard times, but this right here kind of makes it worth it? What was that moment for each and one of you?
Wow. Do you have a moment? I don't know if I... Just work-wise or just in general?
In general.
This is a good question.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm thinking.
I don't know if I found that yet, honestly. I think a lot of my trauma is in the past year and a half. The trauma that's really like triggered anxiety, and the trauma that's really like put me in depressive like modes and like antisocial moments. So I don't know if I've had that yet. I thought last year, like throwing myself into my job, and like I flourished last year in my job. I had the best year. Like it was amazing, and I was like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to. But I don't know if I found the moment like this is it. Like this is. I think when I was.
Could it be said that maybe potentially you wouldn't have flourished the way you did if it wasn't for your traumatic events? Yes,
but I never had time for me. If you asked any of my friends, work, wouldn't even go out for drinks. They had to like literally show up at the house and take me out the house to go and do drinks or like anything. Like I would not go out. Like I was just working. And so at the same time, that's not healthy. Like I needed me time and I wasn't giving myself me time. Refusing to do holidays, like saying that I was sick and just not doing anything so I didn't have to be around people, or that I had work and was working late hours, taking on all the extra volunteer stuff. So at the same time, yes, but at the same time, like that's not, that's not the best. I think on the flip side, for the childhood part though, my parents adopted me. I'm so blessed that I got adopted. I'm one of the few very lucky ones to have gotten adopted. I got adopted by two amazing, phenomenal mothers who like give back. They've started nonprofits. They started a soup kitchen. They've gone to other countries and given back that way by saving immigrants. Like we lived in a whole nother country for a year in Southern Africa. So I think in terms of like trauma of my childhood and like wanting to be loved, like my mom's gave me that, and I'm so blessed because one's Middle Eastern, and Middle Easterns, they don't show their, if you know Middle Easterns, they don't show their emotions and stuff. But I also wouldn't be who I am today without those two moms. And I'm so blessed, and I wouldn't want to give back and help the community as much as I did if they didn't adopt me and show me the world and show me what it's like to grow up and give back constantly. So in terms of that, but right now, in 28-year-old me, I think I'm still trying to figure that out.
You're at a way better place than I was at 28. Let's say that. But two things came to mind. So the first one, I go to this yoga wellness retreat. It's called Kripalu. It's like the best thing in the world. It's my secret, and I'm letting you guys know my secret.
My moms do that. They love
Yes,
it.
that's my spot. It's in Western Mass.
Yes.
But I go there. I probably go there like 4 or 5 times a year now. And this is like the last couple of times I went. And I remember I'm writing a memoir, and I write about this in my memoir. I was in a kayak. It's like a 2-hour kayak, right? On the paper it says 2 hours. I'm like, we can't be in the water for 2 hours, straight hours, like on a kayak. But we were, and it was like a mindful kayak. So we go out, like, a decent amount, and she's talking us through it. And all of a sudden, like, my inner child came to me, like little Carlene came to me, and she goes, look at where we are. She goes, you came from little old CF, and look at you kayaking. And I just felt, she's like, I'm proud of you. And her saying that to me, like, I'm proud of you, to know that I did that little girl justice that went through so much. Like, that brought everything full circle. Like, I know if it wasn't for my journey, what I went through, I wouldn't be who I am. Like, I love myself. And to say that you authentically love yourself, that's hard in a world that's always telling you no. Always telling you can't do this or you can't do that.
Yeah. Especially for women, in my opinion. I think there's just so many variables on why society is picking women apart. And I definitely feel for all of them that don't feel whole or feel like they're, not 100% with themselves, because it is like legitimately hard. Like I see it every day. I have clients that, you would look at them, they would be fine, but on the inside they're like, oh, this is wrong, that is wrong. And you're like, no, you're fine. Like, what are you talking about? And,
Perfect.
they see it a whole different way. And, I think with men, it's more so financially what you can provide a little bit. Women, especially nowadays, it's like you have to be, you have to make your own money. You have to be the woman that raises the children. You have to cook. There's just like a numerous amount of just things that if one's missing, people will pick apart. And I don't think that's fair.
And I also want to challenge that and say it's up to us to define what that expectation and what that looks like for us. So now I don't let anyone define what I am, who I am, or my worth. I used to tie my worth so much to my job. I'm not my job. I'm not defined by my job. If a job, right, so I'm transitioning to working for myself full time because I'm worth it. Like, I finally feel like I'm 100% worth it, and I can go off and do my own thing. We spend so much hours, besides sleep, work is the the thing that you spend the most time with. And we spend so much time making money for other people and doing other people's, like, stuff. Why don't we do that for ourselves, right? Like, why don't we rest? Rest is just as important as working, right? Because if we're not rejuvenated, if we're not feeling well in ourselves, like, we have nothing to give, not even ourselves, let alone other people in our lives. Yeah. Right? So it's like I've changed my word from self-care to, like, collective care. Because if I'm no good to my daughter.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to ask a series of questions. Just give me the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
One word?
No, it could be, a short phrase, but we'll keep it brief. How do you measure success?
I don't. How good I feel about myself. How good I did that day.
Okay.
How good I did that year. I guess. Yeah. That's how I.
So your own personal kind of metric.
Yeah.
Okay.
How I honored myself, like in my decisions, in my work, in my everything. Like, am I honoring myself?
Okay. Kind of putting your values before everything else. Okay, fair. Would you rather be loved or respected?
I think for me, loved, because I think it goes back to my childhood and being adopted, and not having the two people who are supposed to love and take care of me forever, like, give up. So I think love, like, I crave that. I need that.
This is hard. I was originally going to say love, but honestly, like, I think my inner child is telling me, like, respect. Because, like, when you say my name, like, put some respect on it. Because, like, girl. I earned that name. I earned it.
Yeah.
So, and as long as I love myself, I don't care who loves me.
Yeah. Okay, Alexis, I know you might have more, but name two of your really good friends. What are their first names?
Oh, my gosh, she's going to kill me. Raina and Cassandra.
Okay.
That's my daughter's name.
Oh, really?
So if I go up to Raina and I go up to Cassandra and I say, what is the biggest thing that Alexis needs to work on? What would each one of them tell me?
Stop wearing my heart on my sleeve and trusting everyone. Okay. I trust too easily. Too nice.
Gotcha. Carlene, two friends of yours.
I would say my daughter, she's my best friend, Raina, and my sister, Paula.
Okay, so if I go to Raina and I go to Paula and I say, what's the number one thing Carlene or mommy can work on, what would they say?
Oh, my daughter definitely tell me my tone and listening. She goes, no, mommy, like, listen to me. And I'm like, all right, you got it, girl. You got it. And she's like, but you're saying it, you're mad. And I'm like, I'm not mad. She goes, yes, you are. Look how you're saying it. And I'm like, all right, I got to work on it. Because clearly you're not receiving it how I'm saying it. So, valid.
Okay, and how about your friend?
Listening. I would say listening.
Okay.
Same thing.
Gotcha. What do you believe to be true that most people don't?
Wow. Right. Questions.
I'll start.
Okay.
I think most people place power outside of themselves. And I think your power is within you.
Okay.
And if we focus on what's in our control, in our power, the world would just be a lot better. Like, I tell my daughter all the time, focus on you, right? She goes, oh, this person, that person. She starts with the lipstick. I said, no, like, her 5 years old. And I'm like, we're not doing that. So I tell her, focus on you and what's in your control and your power. Because we tend to give our power away.
Yeah. Right?
And especially if you've gone through trauma, it's like flowing. Like, just go give it all away. But we need to take our power back. And I strongly believe when we see our own power within, we operate at a way higher frequency.
I like that.
I feel like I can't even top that.
Yes,
But I agree with you. I think I don't know if I have an answer for that, but I want to say I agree with you in that terms, because I tell my students all the time, focus on yourself, focus on you, have your own identity. Like, you don't need to be what everyone else is. Like, you are so beautiful and so amazing how you are. So I also feel like I'm saying that constantly every single day. And I hope one day that they actually believe it and know, like, they are important and they are who they are is amazing. Yes.
What's your most regretful purchase?
Anything? Oh my gosh.
Probably lending people money. That's a purchase.
Girl.
I'm serious, right? Like, you lend people money and then they don't pay your ass back. Mm-hmm. That's a purchase.
I'll count it.
I have to say, when I was younger, And when I was at URI living my best life, all them drinks, all the bars that I go to, I feel like that's such, like, that's, I don't like that. I have to say though, like, I haven't bought a house yet. This sounds so spoiled of me. I've never bought a car.
It's not spoiled.
I know, but I feel like a lot of people have, like, they've bought, like, you know what I mean? So I just have to say, like, my biggest, just spending too much money outside, which is why I'm not out anymore. Which is why you never see me anymore. Regret.
When it's all said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
So I was telling Carlene this because we have a lot of meetings together in the after school network. And so I'm going to explain this story, and I think this is what I want to be remembered for. I love what I do in education. I love being in education. When I started working with children, I worked at the Jewish Community Center, not just because I'm Jewish, but because I loved that place. I felt like that's where I could connect to my Jewish self. Being a Black Jew. And so I had a girl there who was struggling behaviorally, and I was 16, and I literally went home and I was like, Ma, what do you do when I don't listen? Because, like, I don't listen. Like, what works? Like, how do I get this girl to listen? And a little background of her, she was in foster care. She was at the time, and she was separated from her twin sister, and she was going through it. But the counselor was like, this is not it. It's not working. Like, you need to take her. 16-year-old me needed to take her and deal with her, and the counselor was not dealing with her. My mom was like, I do a sticker chart. Like, I just give you a sticker. And I was like, okay. Like, that's what you did when I was younger? I'll try it with her because she's young. And so I went and I tried it. And she had the best summer, and I gave her a prize at the end of the week, and she had the best summer. And then you fast forward a few years, when she graduated high school, and she's now in college, and she wants to be a teacher because I impacted her, and I gave her a reason to continue, and to, like, I was that one person that loved her and that cared for her. So I don't care what my students do. I don't care when I have kids what my kids do. I think at the end of the day, as long as I left an impression on you to want to keep going, and maybe you want to go in education, or you and I had a conversation and now you want to be in finance. Like, as long as I motivated you to do what you want to do, like, she's in education now because of me, because I gave a chance on her. And so I want to be able to just give that chance to all those kids. I think that's what's really important, and that's what I want to be remembered for Alexis, the person that, like, gave each kid a chance and, like, made sure that each little kid knew that they were important. I think that's what's important to me.
That's amazing. Yeah.
What do I want to be remembered for? I believe I believe we have many lives. This life I came back for myself and to heal my generational line. We have a lot of mental health. My grandfather died by suicide. My whole family struggles with, alcohol, whether they want to admit it or not, or some other addiction. And I'm here to show people that change can happen, that you can break generational curses and traumas, and you don't have to be who your family was, and you can create your own family. Like, I created a whole new life for myself and my daughter. And something she said to me the other day, first day of kindergarten, she said, I love myself. Like, not I love you, Mommy. She said, I love myself. And for her to say that at 5 years old, like, I know I'm doing my job. So me living my life, loving myself, it's impacting so many people. People come to me and it's like, this person needs help getting into recovery. This person needs help with, like, their mental health. And to know that because I've shared my story, that people can come to me, like, that's powerful. That in itself, like, I don't have to be anything. I don't have to do anything. Just being myself is enough. It's enough for me. And that should be enough for the world. And if it's not, I don't care.
No, that's fine. I made a piece of content about, and I'm not a parent, so, whatever, yes. But, right. Yeah. But I do think that in order to be the best parent, you have to be the best for yourself first. And so I had this whole thing about not putting your children first, putting yourself first. And so it was a very interesting take. And it sounds like you've reaped the benefits of that. So that's amazing. Any questions for me?
How did you get into this work? Like, why shine a light on mental health? Like, what meaning does it have to you personally?
I had anxiety growing up. I never knew it was anxiety. I was always kind of like, I was a little bit on edge, and I had like this kind of like bed, this kind of like wall frame right here, at the end of my bedroom, and like I would randomly just like have the urge to like punch it, and that was like me being all wound up and anxious and not knowing what to do, and I would do that all the time. And this is before like mental health was even a thing, right? But the two biggest things were, I always thought that therapists were the coolest people on TV shows. So that was number one. I don't know if anyone's watched The Sopranos or anything like that. Like, I always thought the therapist scenes were always the coolest scenes. That was one. The second thing is just I always excelled in English, but then I took psychology in high school, or some sort of psych course, and I loved it because it was something that you could learn that day and apply right after. Like history, math, things like that. You have to wait for the perfect thing to happen for you to like whip out something that you learned, right? But psychology, you learn something, you apply it that same day. And that's why I really, really liked about psychology and mental health as a whole. And then I just saw a need. I just saw a huge need, especially when it comes to like just therapists in general. Like we were kind of talking before, it was looked down upon, and especially being like a black male, we are very much underserved and underrepresented in that field. So I always was kind of like, this was definitely just like my way to go. And at this point, I've impacted hundreds of people, and it's just one of those things that's like, I know I made the right call on it. So it's just no going back now, If you guys could give me any constructive criticism on, if you were me, what you would do more, what you would do better, what would you guys tell me? And let me have it. Don't hold any punches. Let me have it.
I would want to see more powerful women up here.
Okay.
And women in education.
I mean, Jesus, I'm trying, God. God, I'm trying. Jeez.
You started off really strong. But we need more of this. I think just in terms of more women in education, more people of color. I mean, you came and talked to my students. I'm very heavy on when I bring someone in to talk to my students, it has to be a person of color. But then I want to see you talk to more kids. The impact that you had on my students that day, and they were like, Miss, how do I become his patient? Like, I've never seen that. I saw kids who don't ask questions, ask you questions back to back to back to back. And then when I was like, guys, he gotta go, they were heated. Because they wanted to keep picking your brain. I had kids who left that session or who now were like, that's what I want to be. And so I want to see, I've seen you impact, like you said, hundreds of people. I've seen you impact hundreds of adults. Maybe I'm missing the kid part, but I want to see you impact and talk to more schools. And I know that you were kind of doing that at first and trying to figure that out, but I want to see you impact more students, because I feel like these kids, whether it's boys groups, when you go in for like an elective and you just run a boys group or a mental health group out of school, whether that's little kids to high schoolers, I think you would have an incredible impact, and I would love to see that.
And we'll talk offline, because I think you have some stuff in the works, so we'll talk offline about that.
I would say two things. So,
you got two things. Sheesh, you got two things. All right.
The first one's easy. So, like I said, I have adult ADHD, so sitting here for like 45 minutes for me is kind of tough.
Okay.
Right? Like, just being honest, like these couches, like I would sit on the floor. Like, I'm dead ass. I would sit on the floor.
Okay.
So maybe just recording in different settings that are more authentic to the people that you're interviewing. Right? Like, it's important to come into your space, but maybe going into their space. Like, I would love for you to see like one of my workshops and like me in action, right?
Gotcha.
On Thursday.
And then the other thing is, I don't know if you've worked with College Unbound, but I'm a lab faculty. I'm instructional faculty. I teach for them. It's a 4-year accredited college, all adult education, adult learners, like people who went to CCRI, went to 3 different schools and couldn't make it, had kids, dropped out, whatever it is. And I think we do a lot in social emotional health and supporting students. So I think having an interview with them would be awesome.
I agree.
Noted. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing the couch, sharing the space, sharing the words of encouragement. I truly appreciate it, and I know the viewership out there appreciates it too. Y'all stay smooth out there.
I didn't highlight my book.
Oh, okay. You're right. Let's highlight it.
So
That was such a good outro too, but go ahead.
My bad. This is time away from my daughter, just so you know. So, I created a wellness journal. It's called One Day at a Time, Journey to the Greatest You, because when I was struggling in my addiction, I couldn't talk to anyone. Like, nobody in my family was sober, got it. So I created a journal where I in the morning, I say what I'm grateful for, my intention, my self-care, practice for the day, and then at nighttime. 3 things that brought me joy in my daily reflection. So I created a whole line of Greatest You products. I have a calendar and inspirational, trauma-informed. All my stuff is trauma-informed. So check out my website, greatestyouconsulting.com, for more.
Very cool. And on that note, we are out.